Hi everyone, it's Andrea over at Sewspire.com, and I am here today with another market tote project for you. Today we are going to be sewing start to finish the Maxi Market Tote. This is a wonderful bag that has two really deep pockets on the front and the rear of the bag, and then there is one large interior compartment. This bag's absolutely perfect for the pool. And then earlier this week on the Sewspire Facebook group, I showed you how to make the classic market tote if you're looking for something just a smidgen smaller. And then last Friday we made the mini market tote. So you can find the step-by-step market tote tutorials for the classic market tote on the Sewspire Facebook group page. I'll link to that down in the notes. And for the mini market tote on the Sewspire YouTube channel. And then today, as mentioned, we are going to sew this Maxi Market Tote. So shall we get started? Okay, so for the exterior of our Maxi Market Tote, we are going to use a unique construction process whereby we're going to piece together 3 panels to create a long exterior panel that we are going to fold up to create this seamless front pocket, which is actually divided in two so that you have 2 really nice deep front pockets that are semi-concealed there because it appears from a distance that this is a pieced panel here, and this exterior is backed with Annie's Soft and Stable. That is my preferred interfacing for this project. If you would like to substitute with the Decoville Light, fusible fleece, or quilt batting, that is also an option. So you will need 2 of these pieced exterior panels. I have the one prepped, and I'm going to show you how to create that panel now. So there will be 3 panels. This is your interior pocket lining. So it's actually the exterior pockets, but it is the lining for that pocket, and you don't see it on the exterior of the bag, so that's why I'm referring to it as your interior pocket. And this measures 21 inches across by 18 inches tall. And then you will need a base exterior panel, which is visible, and that's 21 by 15. And then you need your top exterior panel, which is also visible, and that's 21 by 9. So we will begin by joining the 21-inch side of the pocket panel to this top accent panel. So it's easiest if you put your pocket lining face down on your table, and then right sides facing, you're going to position your top accent panel along the top edge of that pocket lining, and using 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, join those 2 panels. So now you have your top panel, the pocket lining, and then at the bottom of the pocket lining you want to attach your base accent panel right sides facing along that 21-inch span. And now you have one very long 3-part panel. This center panel is going to be completely concealed and will become those exterior pockets. So go ahead and take a minute and press this panel nice. All right, and then with your top accent panel towards the top of your mat there, you are going to raise up this base panel here, and you want to go ahead and press that right on that seam. You don't want much of that, if any of that pocket lining showing. If you really like it, you could allow a little bit of that to peep up, but what you really want to do is just to have that lay nice and flush on the seam. So go ahead and give that a good press. And so now you have on the front the base and then the pocket lining. Go ahead and run 2 rows of stitching across that seam. And I'm just lining up the edge of my presser foot with the edge of that fabric. And then I'm going to go ahead and steam press across the top of that pocket. And this top edge here will be the lip for your pocket. So now you have a panel that looks like this, and basically you just have that little pocket lip that's popping up, but you still have your top panel, your pocket lining, that pocket lip, and your base panel there. So now you want to take that pocket lip and raise that up so that it sits 5 inches from the top of that accent panel. And you want to make sure that this is nice and straight, so a large mat is very helpful. If you don't have a large mat, go ahead and measure on both sides. And then you can lift up the front of that pocket and smooth out that actual lining of that pocket, and then bring that front exterior base panel over the top of that, and I'm going to give this a good press so that I can press that pocket in half and make sure everything's nice and smooth. Okay, so what I have done is fold up the bottom of that base accent panel and press in a stitch line that is right even with that pocket lining. And then I am going to now notch out 3-inch corners from the bottom right and left hand side of this panel. And that should leave you about 1 inch there in between the base of that pocket lining and your notched out corner. Now I want to go ahead and stitch the sides of this pocket in place so that it does not shift. And you only need just about 1 inch of stay stitching there. Don't come in too far or it will show in your finished bag. You want to stay within that 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. And that stitching on the sides there is going to allow you to remove those pins because we don't want those in the way, because what we're going to do is lift up that front of the exterior there and just expose our pocket lining. And then we want to mark center, and then just using a chalk pencil, go ahead and mark that center line where you're going to now stitch from the bottom all the way to that seam. Do not overlap because it will make your fabric pucker. So I like to work from that bottom folded edge up. if I lower back down my base of the exterior, I now have successfully divided that pocket in half. The exception is the very top of that pocket where we put that accent stitching across. So you have a couple of options right now, because you definitely don't want to just leave that flopping there. You can install a rivet like I have right at center there to hold that pocket lip in place. You can go ahead and stitch right there just to that second row stitching and back stitch to reinforce. You could also install a snap right on top of there, just simply as an accent, and they make a lot of pretty decorative snaps. So those are your options for that. I'm going to go ahead and punch a hole and install an 8mm rivet using my cam press. So I have a hole punch die that I will use to press that hole. I'm just going to put that fabric right up there, and I'm going to see where that center is, and I'm going to punch my hole right in between those stitch lines. And then I will take my rivet and position that right through all the layers of the fabric. I'll put the cap on the back there, and then I'll switch out to the rivet die set, which will allow me to compress those two parts so that that rivet stays nice and secure on the top of that pocket. And there I have a nice little accent on the top of that pocket. Okay, so the rivet is just reinforcing that stitch line so that as you're using the pockets, you don't accidentally rip out that stitch line, because that would be a difficult fix. Now what we want to do is back this panel with a piece of the Annie's Soft and Stable. And I want to go ahead and give you the measurements on this exterior panel, because you are going to cut out 2 more pieces of material that will become your interior lining, and they need to be the exact same measurements as your finished exterior panel. So my interior is 19.5 inches by 21 inches, and you will cut out 2 of those interior panels from your choice of coordinating cotton fabric. You do not need any interfacing for the interior, but if you insist, please select something nice and light like a Pellon 808 or a Pellon 809. If you are using quilt batting for the exterior, you could use quilt batting for the interior as well. So I have notched out my corners there, and I'm just cleaning up the sides just a bit. And now what I want to do is, using that press line there across the bottom, I want to stitch along the top of that press line and capture that pocket lining and the foam in my stitch. And then I'm going to go ahead and give everything a good press. Okay, so now I have 2 identical exterior panels, and both of those have hidden exterior pockets that are divided underneath that front accent panel and then capped with a little rivet, and they both have 3-inch notches out of the bottom left and right hand corners. I have used these as a template to cut out my interior panels, which are exactly the same size from quote weight cotton material. From this point forward, you're going to use the same construction process for the interior and the exterior. So if you like, you can prep those at the same time. My interior is already prepped because it's the identical construction process. So I just took my panels and assembled them to create my lining, and I'm going to show you how to use this notched corner method to create the exterior of your bag, and you'll follow the same instructions using the quote weight cotton panels for the interior. So you're going to begin by verifying that your pocket tops are aligned. You do have the option of adding pockets to your interior panels if you like. I want this to be a pool bag. So the contents that I will be carrying are likely going to be big items on the inside of this bag. So I have not incorporated any pockets into the interior, and that's so that I can put our lunch and our snacks and then our towels inside of there, and the pockets are not interfering with that. My exterior pockets can hold smaller things that I would want close at hand, like my phone and my sunscreen and things like that. Okay, so I have verified that these pockets at the top are aligned. So now what I want to do is, using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, I'm going to stitch down the right hand side, the left hand side, and across the base. I am not stitching in the notches yet. Okay, so I've stitched the right hand side, the left hand side, and across the base. Before I trim these seams up to 1/4 inch, I want to peel back those layers and verify that I have captured both pieces of fabric and the pocket lining, as well as the Annie's Soft and Stable in that stitch line. It's still really easy to go back in and make a repair if needed, if anything shifted, or you need to be a little more generous with your stitch line. You have the ability to do that now. If everything looks good to you, go ahead and trim this up to 1/4 inch. So now what I want to do is reach inside here and align that side seam with that base seam. Make sure everything is laying nice and flat, and I'm going to use 5/8 of an inch seam allowance to stitch across there and give this bag its depth. And I'm going to repeat that on the opposite corner there, just aligning that side and that base seam, getting everything nice and flat, and stitching across there 5/8 of an inch. And then before you trim, peek inside and make sure those corners look good and they are beautiful. And then go ahead and trim to the right of that stitch line so you can minimize that bulk. The foam is wonderful for these large bags. It does not add weight, but it has plenty of stability for the bigger bags. Now the exterior is complete. You're going to repeat that exact same process for your interior whole cloth panels. So you'll be notching the corners, positioning those panels right sides facing, and then stitching up the right hand side, the left hand side, and the base. And then you're going to align the side seams with the base seam and stitch across to give the bag its depth. Boy, this fabric is so pretty. This is going to get listed in my Watermelon Wishes Etsy shop, but wow, I would totally carry this bag to the pool. It's so pretty. Love it, love it, love it. I think this will sell really fast. Okay, so now you want to take your top edge of the bag there and you want to turn that inward an inch. And I like to begin at the side seams first. And I like to use these really nice fat clips to hold that down. So once I get the side seam done, then I can fold over that front edge and get a clip at center there, and then I can come along the back edge and get a clip at center, and then I come in at the quarter marks in between the side seam and center, and I add another clip, and that helps that foam lay nice and straight. And that's what that looks like, all clipped. And then I'll hold that flat for you so you can get a good look. It's a really nice size bag, but not overwhelming. And I really love how the pockets appear as if it's just a single panel here. I also like that little accent of the rivet, but yet I have all this great cargo space here. And because of the hidden interior lining on that pocket, as well as the stitch line across the base there, the contents of the pocket will stay up out of the base, which using the notched corner method turned out really nice and clean. So now you should have also crafted an interior that is the exact same measurements. Take that lining and fold the top edge over an inch, and you can go ahead and press that so it stays nice and straight for you, and then align the side seams first, and you can just combine the clips and you'll work from center to the quarter marks. And then once you get that top edge secure, then you can put the bag on its side and fit that lining so that it grabs that foam on the opposite side, and you could just smooth it all out. It should be a good fit for you, and you should not have a lot of gapping at the top here. So if you do, you may need to take in your lining, and you may want to add a few extra clips along the top there just to make sure that you do in fact have a good fit. And cotton fabric does have a little bit of give to it, so you can use that to your advantage if you need, and give it a little stretch. Just try your best to keep those side seams aligned. So now the next step in this process is to craft the straps for this. So my straps are 6 inches wide by 30 inches long, and this should net me a 12-inch handle drop, which is very comfy for most people. If you like your strap a little shorter, cut it a little shorter, a little longer so you have some more room under the arm there, cut it a little longer. So I use my standard Sewspire strap method. I press that fabric in half long ways, open that up, brought those outer edges inward to meet on that center press line. I added a 1.5 inch strip of the Annie Soft and Stable and put that right in that channel, pressed again, and then I folded that strap over to create a 4-ply padded strap. Now I'm going to stitch down this open edge here, and I'm going to be aligning the presser foot right with that edge. Then I'm going to come across this opposite edge, and then I'm going to add a 3rd row of stitching right down the center to give us a nice ribbed strap. And then after you've added your 3 rows of stitching, you should have an amazing padded strap. I'm going to go ahead and give mine a good steam press to sink those stitches nicely into that soft and stable. And now I have 2 pretty straps that coordinate with the base of my bag. And so I want to measure in 5 inches from that side seam, and I'm going to tuck the raw edge of that strap inward in between the interior and the exterior layers, and then I'm going to switch out to these nice long flat pins and secure the strap in place there so that when I go to sew on the top of this bag, there's no chance that that strap will shift. And I'm just tucking that strap down in there about an inch, inch and a half. I will be adding a second row of stitching to reinforce that strap. Sure is a beautiful combination. Gorgeous. And you do want to make sure that your straps are even, so you can use that first strap as a guide, of course. It's especially helpful to make sure you have the same height straps, but I find it is necessary to measure from that side seam because sometimes the bag is not perfectly aligned and then you would find out that your straps were a little crooked. So best to measure. Very nice, really, really pretty. So now I'm going to remove the machine deck and stitch all the way around the top perimeter of this bag. I'm going to reinforce the handles with a back stitch, and then I'm going to come back in and add a second row of stitching right below that first row of top stitching just to reinforce those handles. You have the option, if you wanted, of adding a few more rivets there if you like. I am not going to. I like just that one center focal point. And I like to start at a side seam. And I'm just aligning that right hand edge of the top of the bag with the right hand edge of my presser foot. Okay, I have made it all the way around, and I have come back in and added a second row of stitching to those handles so that they're nice and secure, and this big bag can be safely loaded up with no chance of a handle popping off there. And it is really lovely. I want to give you the measurements on this before we say goodbye. Across the base, I'm coming in at just about 14 inches. And then height-wise, we are at 14 3/4 inches. And across the base there, we've got 6 inches. And then across the top, we're coming in at almost 19 inches. So this is a really lovely, spacious bag, and it has the front 2 large pockets and the rear 2 large pockets, and then an absolutely huge interior which can be loaded up. You might want to consider sewing a false bottom for this bag, and you would do that by measuring the base of it and then creating like a pillowcase and inserting a piece of acrylic or really stiff foam board in there, and that will give you some additional stability for the base of the bag. But as you can see with the Annies, this bag stands up on its own, so that'll be so useful when it is poolside. All right, so we ended up with a big, gorgeous bag here, and I want to show you how that compares to its sister, the mini market tote, which how fun would it be to have this little one for when you're like running to the restroom at the pool, and then this big one to leave by your lounge chair. That would be a really nice gift for anyone who likes to hang out at the pool. If you're interested in making the mini market tote, I have a step-by-step tutorial for that, which you should see in the suggested videos. But you can also find that by searching mini market tote and Sewspire here on YouTube. And then, of course, we just made the Maxi Market Tote. And then earlier this week on the Sewspire Facebook group, I sewed a classic market tote with you. So let me hold the three of them up together. You have some really fun options here that could serve a variety of purposes. I honestly would like a three-piece matching set. Gorgeous, gorgeous bags. Ta-da! So we have the Maxi Market Tote, the Classic Market Tote, and the Mini Market Tote. I have step-by-step tutorials for all three of these bags. I think it would make a lovely gift if you combined all three and you could nest them inside of each other and gift them to someone very special. That someone special might even be yourself. Please, if you make any of these market totes, share a photo with us on the Sewspire group page. I love to see what you're doing with the tutorials, and I also really like to see your beautiful fabric selections. So if you're not a member of the Sewspire Facebook group, you'll find a link to that down in the comments. I will be back with you next Friday at noon for another market tote inspired project. So until then, as always, please know the creative genius in me will be celebrating the creative genius in you. I hope you have a beautiful week, everyone. Thank you so much for sewing with me.